The 6 o'clock news starts right now.
What began as a routine sentencing hearing for a man facing aggravated assault with a deadly weapons charges, it took an unexpected turn.
Jeremy Sanchez was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Paul Venema reports that prior to that sentencing, COVID-19 courthouse guidelines forced the proceeding into some uncharted legal territory.
After he was tossed out of this popular Southtown bar, 24-year-old Jeremy Sanchez allegedly pulled a gun and shot 2 people. Both victims survived. Sanchez was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. As part of a plea agreement, he was here in person for sentencing. The punishment ranged from 2 to 14 years in prison to probation. But when the courtroom across the hall was closed due to COVID concerns,
I don't feel necessarily safe.
Things changed.
You always know to expect the unexpected in the middle of trial or in the middle of a hearing.
The hearing became what is called a hybrid hearing, with the witnesses testifying remotely. The witness list was long, also adding to the length of this hearing.
We are essentially creating the rules every single day, every time we come to court, trying to figure out how to use the law in a way that complies with our new social circumstances.
Uncharted territory, operating on the fly, he called it. That meant going slowly and cautiously.
When you deal with those kinds of issues, you could have what you consider or anticipate to be a 5 to 10 minute hearing could easily turn into a full day hearing.
Which is exactly what happened here today. Paul Venema, KSAT 12 News.
Deeply flawed. That's how the San Antonio Law Enforcement Accountability Project and the Coalition for Police Reform and Accountability described the collective bargaining agreement between the city and the San Antonio Police Department. Through arbitration offered through that agreement, the groups say 70% of San Antonio police officers who are fired get their jobs back. Over the past 10 years, civil rights attorney Edward Pena says 106 people have died in San Antonio police custody, including Norman Cooper and Jesse Aguirre, whose cases are still pending.
They put weight on your back, they kneel on your back, they're pressing on the back of your head. Well, those things are going to kill you. They know that.
San Antonio Police Officers Association President Mike Helly pushing back, questioning those numbers and saying the custodial death cases don't point to police brutality necessarily, as investigations are always conducted and no officers have been found at fault as of now. Pena is working out a referendum that would eliminate the collective bargaining agreement and reimagine SAPD.
To help businesses in Bexar County comply with the county judge's latest executive order, the county is getting ready to hand out 1 million face masks next week. 10,000 local businesses will get 100 masks each. Judge Nelson Wolf signed the executive order this week, which requires businesses that deal with the public to have a health and safety plan. That includes mandatory masks for employees and customers. Only businesses that have pre-registered for the event can get those masks. Online registration is now open at bear.org. The masks will be distributed next Wednesday at Freeman Coliseum and then on Saturday the 27th at the Bibliotech South location. Business owners will need to bring their confirmation emails.
A possibly rough year ahead for arts agencies. Most of the city's funding for arts directly tied to the hotel occupancy tax, which has taken a nosedive in the pandemic and isn't expected to recover for years. Garrett Berger talks with 3 different arts organizations about what a leaner year could look like.
Next year's budget isn't shaping up to be a pretty picture.
If the arts are not funded, San Antonio loses a lot of its viability. It loses its outward culture. So really, it's boring.
The city's Arts and Culture Department, which provides grants to art agencies, could see a 33% drop next year compared to what was originally passed this year. It's not yet certain exactly how much that would affect the dozens of agencies and festivals it supports, but it would definitely mean less money to go around.
I think we're all scrambling. I think we're all looking really, really carefully on alternative ways to earn the income.
No matter what happens with city funding, the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center expects it will have to shrink or possibly cut programs because it also expects the pandemic to keep other income, like ticket sales, down. So the more the city cuts, the worse it will be.
My biggest worry is for all the artists that we won't be able to employ for different programs. The Guadalupe contracts with over 300 artists every year.
Because the grants for art agencies are funded solely from the hotel occupancy tax, it's at the mercy of the economy. But nothing's a done deal. Council members have expressed support for the arts, though, and there's talk of making changes to the funding mechanisms.
Sometimes it takes a crisis to make significant change, and we're glad that at least they're seeing that now and that they're considering the possibility.
Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
The South Texas Blood and Tissue Center says plasma donations are needed now more than ever, whether donors have had the coronavirus or not. The STBC tells us plasma donations are essential for life-saving medicines for a number of conditions. While plasma from people who have recovered from COVID-19 can be used to make antibodies for other patients, plasma from healthy donors is desperately needed to treat people with serious or rare diseases, which often have few other treatment options.
We've seen cases and stories throughout San Antonio of convalescent plasma helping people here. So if you have the opportunity to help someone, please come out and do it. Show the good here in South Texas.
For more information and to find out how you can make an appointment to donate, go to cslplasma.com.
We've learned the name of the teen killed in a crash on Wednesday east of the downtown area. According to the medical examiner's office, 17-year-old Daniel Martinez died from injuries he suffered in the wreck near Hackberry in Indiana. It happened around 6. Police say Martinez driving south on Hackberry when he hit an SUV trying to make a left turn. Martinez and a 14-year-old passenger both taken to BAMC where Martinez died. Officers say the driver of the SUV and a 1-year-old child suffered non-life-threatening injuries.
San Antonio police searching for suspects in a late-night shooting on the east side. Officers got the call just before 11 to respond to the 4800 block of Castle Sword for a reported disturbance there. They say they found a victim on the porch with 2 gunshot wounds to the chest. The man's girlfriend told police 2 men were trying to get in the house by breaking the window, and when he opened the door, they shot him. The victim was taken to Brooke Army Medical Center in critical condition. The suspects were thought to be in a black pickup.
Time saver traffic right now. It's the TransGuide camera at I-10 in Huebner. Now, this is the access road, and you can see it looks like there's some type of accident a little farther down the access road, but it is completely shut down right now. Again, it's I-10 and Huebner. You can see the access road. It looks like this may be the westbound access road of I-10. The camera's at I-10 and Huebner, so you're looking farther off. But again, you get an idea that nothing is going through on the access road right now until they get this accident cleaned up.
New at 6, as the numbers of coronavirus cases in San Antonio and Bexar County continue to rise, many wonder if symptoms they're having are COVID-19 too. Many who test positive learn that they actually have pneumonia and didn't realize it until it's very hard for them to catch their breath. Ursula Perry shows us a small medical device you can buy and use at home to find out if your lungs are getting the oxygen they need.
For Brad Weaver and his 18-year-old daughter, Emma, COVID-19 means they have to be extra vigilant.
Emma is special needs, nonverbal. She needs assistant walking and so forth. And so she's at high risk.
Since Emma can't tell her dad if she's not feeling well, Brad takes her temperature under her arm and he uses this to monitor Emma's blood oxygen levels.
This is the pulse oximeter. It has a digital readout.
The pulse oximeter can detect even small changes in the way lungs move oxygen to the rest of the body. Those working at the front lines at hospitals are often shocked to see how patients come into the ER with severe COVID symptoms they didn't know they had.
They had oxygen saturations as low as 50%. Normal is above 94%. And they were talking to us. They were not in shock. They were not lethargic.
Dr. Levitin recommends using pulse oximeters at home, especially if patients are high risk. He says watching for low oxygen levels could help people recognize early signs of COVID pneumonia.
If we could detect the pneumonia earlier, then many more patients can avoid ventilators.
Pulse oximeters are available over the counter at most drugstores. They run between $40 and $70. They are not a cure. They're just something to give you perhaps peace of mind. Keep in mind that anything that registers below 94% is probably something you need to look into. Ursula Perry, KSAT 12 News.
A look outside with Sky 12 this evening. Sky 12 high above North New Braunfels, not far from the AT&T Center, where the people there below have gathered. You can see some tents are up, all to celebrate Juneteenth happening today.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with what exactly Juneteenth is all about, our KSAT Q&A guest coming up in about 22 minutes is a history professor from Trinity University, Dr. Kerry Lattimore, and we'll talk to him about Juneteenth, what it is, and how it can be, meaningful in modern day.
A lot of people talking about that holiday this year.
Yeah.
Meantime, a look outside with live cam. It's been a nice day out there, 91 degrees, but kind of more of the same, Adam.
Hey, get used to it, right? If you're not used to it already, well, get used to it, because we'll continue to see more of the same in the days ahead. The aquifer down 0.4 of a foot today. It sure could use a good splash of rain, but we're just looking at these little isolated showers out there. Take a look at the radar right now. Over the past few hours, you see a lot of that activity has dissipated as we're losing our peak daytime heating. We're keeping an eye on the storms off to the west around Big Bend, as some of those could make their way into Val Verde County and some of our western areas. But over Cuero, we've got one little downpour that's coming quickly to an end. Pollen count, 3 allergens, mold, pigweed, and grass, all low. Right now, right around 90 degrees across our area. And this evening, those stray showers coming to an end. It'll be muggy, and then mid-70s to start your day tomorrow. More on the weekend forecast coming up.
I want to point out that what we're about to go to is not a regularly scheduled daily briefing by the mayor and the county judge. They called this one this afternoon, that they felt it was urgent to have one.
Let's listen into the very latest on coronavirus.
Rise exponentially, and with a big Father's Day weekend ahead of us, the judge and I are concerned enough to give you a warning. Tonight, we have another 412 cases of COVID-19, which brings our total to 5,962. I'm going to put a graphic on the screen now, which shows the significant spike that we're seeing. The red bars show the number of new cases each day since the pandemic reached San Antonio in March. At no other time during this public health crisis have we seen such numbers grow daily, and it continues to be deadly. We have another 4 COVID-related deaths to report tonight, which brings our total to 96 since this began. 3 of the 4 were Hispanic females, one in her 60s, one in her 80s, and another in her 90s. The 4th death was a white female in her 70s. Please keep their families and their loved ones in our prayers. We continue to also watch with great concern the stress in our local hospital system. So I'm going to put a graphic up on the screen now to show you the numbers there and the curve. Tonight we have a total of 322 patients in the hospital. That's up 55 from just yesterday, which itself was up 26 from the previous day. We're seeing this curve rising exponentially, and when we talk about flattening the curve, this is the curve that we're trying to flatten, one of them. A lot of this is the result also of younger patients. The average age of hospitalized patients has gone down over the last week and a half by 7 years. Of these patients tonight, 101 are in intensive care and 50 are on ventilators. The hospitals still are maintaining a healthy supply of ventilators. We have 78% of ventilators available, along with 25% of staffed hospital beds. But the numbers in the hospitals continue to go up, and that causes us concern because we want to make sure there's capacity, and we also want to make sure that it's also about keeping people from getting sick in the first place. Now, COVID-19 is surging in our community, and we know that there is a lot of work ahead for all of us to continue to slow the spread. So as Father's Day weekend arrives, we're unable to see when that surge will slow down. And I want to mention to you that the best thing we can do on this family-oriented weekend is be on our toes and play it safe. The best gift you can give Dad this weekend is to continue and work on ensuring that we all have continued good health, including Dad. If he's not a member of your household, stay away this weekend. Show him how much he means to you by talking on the telephone. Do not host a big family get-together that jeopardizes the health of your entire family and those around you. I do have to mention that when we were talking about positivity rate, when we were containing this virus in May, the positivity rate was declining significantly. We were down to roughly 4%. Over the last week, the positivity rate on these tests is now 19%. Those who are showing up for testing, 19% 15% are actually positive with COVID-19. So can't emphasize this enough. Do not let your guard down. Wear your face mask. Wash your hands. Keep physical distance from those who are outside your household. Judge Wolf.
Yeah, thank you. All is the number of people that are in the hospital now, 322. For a long time, the high was April the 16th, and that was 91. So the numbers are getting awful high and putting a stress on our hospital system and the people that work with them to try to serve the patients. As you know, Monday, the new executive order goes into being. We'll have people out notifying the various businesses that it will go up. We just drew up a typical one that a business may consider to put up, and that's with respect to a warning that their employees, as well as the customers that walk into that facility, are required to wear a face mask. We want those up Monday, and we'll be checking to make sure that they are up. It's important that we also help the small businesses that may have limited resources for face masks for their employees, or if a customer asks for one. As we mentioned yesterday, we've bought 1 million face masks, and we'll have them available. And we had already 1,400 businesses ask for some, so we'll be distributing those and making sure that they've got enough face masks to be able to offer to their employees and to their customers. We got to take every means that we can to stop the spread of this, and if we don't take these measures and take them seriously, then we're going to get worse.
Thank you, Judge. And as the judge mentioned, on Monday, those new executive orders do go into effect regarding face masks and other safety measures in the businesses, and the city and the county will be enforcing those orders. So let's all work together to make sure that that happens and we can continue to contain the spread as best we can. Also, be sure to subscribe for the latest COVID-19 updates by texting KSAT to 55000. You can also learn more anytime about where we are with the containment of this virus at covid19.sanantonio.gov. At this point, Dr. Bridger, myself, and the judge are available for questions.
Sounding a warning to the community about the surge in COVID-19 cases, the concern obvious in the faces of both the mayor and the county judge tonight as they talk about what they are seeing in a consistent amount of new cases, 412 new cases just in the last 24 hours. That brings us to 5,962 total in the county. 4 more deaths to report as well, up to 96. The mayor saying simply COVID-19 is surging in our community. We are unable to see when it will end. End quote.
They're seeing these numbers rise exponentially. That's what they said in this press briefing, which at the beginning of this, we told you that this was not a regularly scheduled briefing. And I think that is, again, important to note. At the very beginning, they talked about how this was a warning they felt needed to be put out there today because Father's Day is coming up. And they know so many South Texans want to get together with their families. But again, warning people, if dad does not live with you in your home, stay away on this Father's Day to prevent that spread.
And because a lot of the positive cases that we're seeing now, they think were linked to Memorial Day and shortly after Memorial Day weekend, when a lot of things opened up. We are not seeing, I'm told by medical experts, that we should see some of maybe the protests and some of the other things that were going on, the effects of that play out over the coming week. So I think it's timely, and I think that there's obviously an urgency when you keep seeing more than 400 cases a day in the city of San Antonio. We have not seen that since this pandemic began. We have not seen the consistent rise in the numbers since the pandemic began. So if there's ever a call to mask up, now is the time.
And that's something else that Mayor Ron Nirenberg put out on social media. We found that just prior to this show beginning. He has put a letter on his Facebook page signed by many other mayors from across Texas asking people to continue to practice those safe practices of social distancing, wearing your mask. You can't read the whole letter here. It's way too long to read here, but I do think this is important to note. In his post, he says, "We are not here to scare you. We are not playing games or politics. The virus is here. Infections are rising. Hospital capacity is filling up. He said this evening that 25% hospital capacity is still available. But as these numbers keep climbing, of course, that percentage will go down.
Yeah, we also want to talk about the positivity rate. I want to talk about that. He said that in just the last couple of weeks, when the curve was handled, the positivity rate, that's the number of people tested that come back positive, was around 4%. In the last couple of weeks, that has jumped to 19%. Almost 20% of people that get tested are coming back positive. We are also hearing, the mayor and the county judge didn't bring it up, but we're also hearing anecdotal tales of people not able to get COVID-19 tests right now, that there's something like a 5-day wait just to get in at Freeman Coliseum and some of those others. Again, we have not confirmed that with the city or county, but that's what viewers are telling us. People in the community are telling us they're having trouble just getting tests right now, whether it's at Freeman or it's at one of the private providers.
Another point they emphasized in this latest briefing is the average age of people who were hospitalized with COVID-19 continues to go down. While they did announce there were 4 additional deaths this evening, those patients, all women ranging from their 60s to their 90s, people who are in the hospital right now, that age is declining. Yesterday we talked with Dr. Ruth Bergeron, who we've talked to many times here, an infectious disease doctor with UT Health San Antonio. She talked about how there are patients in the ICU who are teenagers and in their early 20s. I think that is something that a lot of people don't expect and need to take note of.
Yeah, not only are they seeing them as patients, they're seeing them get sick.
Yes.
And this is not something, I mean, we're talking about not being able to breathe if you come down with COVID-19 and you get sick. We're going to take a break, but again, a stark warning tonight from the mayor and the county judge.
This season looks to be the perfect one for Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies to make some serious noise in the SEC. For the first time in a while, almost all the top teams have a lot of question marks opening the door for A&M. The Aggies have a much more favorable schedule this coming season than in Fisher's first 2 years, as Clemson and Georgia are no longer on it. Also, Kellen Mond is the most experienced quarterback in the SEC with 34 career starts under his belt. The expectations are high for the Aggies, and the senior quarterback embraces it.
You have to put in the work for it. And so, with a lot of these great expectations coming into the season, we love it and we want to meet every expectation and, go past those expectations. But, it's going to take a lot of work and, it's going to be a long season. So we got to take it one day at a time and, continue to grow as a team, old guys and young guys.
The Aggies have 16 starters coming back, tied for the most in the conference. This week, the Jets and Rockets return to campus for voluntary summer strength and conditioning workouts. After nearly 3 months of working out at home, members of the football team were happy to be back on the field to condition and prep for the upcoming season. All-State linebacker Donnie Moody was there leading the way.
It's very meaningful. It's my last season here. I want to go out with a bang and start strong and hopefully win a state championship. It's surreal, keep a smile on my face, keep me happy. This is my happy place right here, so it feels good to be back out here.
It feels amazing to be back. It's like you missed it so much and now it's here, so it's a blessing.
What do you think you miss most about not being able to practice?
Missing my team, really, because it's really a family bond.
Once again, the Rockets are one of the top 6A teams in the area and state, and the addition of Jordan Battles makes them even better. Take you to Las Vegas, where San Antonio bantamweight Robert Biggie Rodriguez beat Adrian Sharky Servine last night by TKO in the second round. Early second round, Biggie drops Sharky to one knee with the right hook to the chin, but he would get up and keep fighting. Later in the round, Biggie started connecting with headshots, so the ref stopped the fight. 2 minutes and 48 seconds into round 2, Robert Biggie Rodriguez improves to 8-0-1 with 4 KOs. Today, the NBA family is honoring and celebrating Juneteenth. They're recognizing the important holiday across all its social and digital platforms. Lakers shooting guard Danny Green was a part of a conversation on NBA Twitter with former NBA player Caron Butler to talk about racism from his perspective. But Butler started off the talk by asking Danny about a rumor he heard. Did he get engaged?
I am engaged. It just happened a couple of days ago. So thank you. Yes, it happened. We were on the coast. We drove up closer to Santa Barbara. in Ojai, I think that's how you pronounce it, Ojai. I went to Ventura, Surfers Point, there's a beach over there in Ventura. Had a little quiet space of our own and had a weekend of it. But she said yes. So luckily, she approved, her parents approved, and I'm engaged.
Congratulations to Danny.
Yeah, that's some good news amid all this pandemic stuff.
It is indeed.
So,
Yep.
Thanks, Larry.
You got it.
We'll be right back. Today is Juneteenth, and there is a unique conversation happening around this holiday this year that I don't think we have seen in years past. Dr. Carrie Lattimore, Associate Professor of History for African American Studies with Trinity University, joins us now to continue that conversation. Dr. Lattimore, thanks for being with us.
It's my honor and privilege.
Let's talk about, first of all, what is Juneteenth?
Juneteenth is referring to the day June 19th, 1865, and it was on that day that Major General Gordon Granger entered Galveston and issued a decree which basically said that slavery was over. And he read that a number of times, or that order was issued a number of times in Galveston, and slaves heard it and they found out that they were free. And from there on, they celebrated June 19th, or Juneteenth as we refer to it, as a day that they were liberated. It was 2 months after the end of the war, 2 years after the end of after the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation, and 88 years after after the Declaration of Independence.
And you and I talked earlier, and as a matter of fact, there's a recording of our conversation that you can find on Trinity's website as well as KSAT.com. We got into a lot of different things, certainly more than we have time for now, and so I recommend people watching that live stream. But you talked about the fact that Juneteenth can teach us a lot about what's happening today.
I did, because in a sense, Juneteenth tells us what it means is basically America in an essence, in a whole. When you think about those enslaved persons who learned that they were free, it was kind of a precarious freedom in a sense. Their lives didn't completely become perfect. They still had to fight discrimination. They still had to fight black codes. They still had to overcome a lot of things, but at the same time, they still came out of that hopeful, with optimism, really happy about the opportunity, the opportunity of becoming part of the citizenry, being a real part of society and not a slave in society. And so it was an opportunity, but it was also a challenge. It was a hope, it was a promise, but yet it came with such difficult questions and such severe restrictions on their rights.
Juneteenth has been celebrated and marked in years past with, of course, gatherings and all kinds of different occasions to really celebrate this day. But this year feels different. We have seen primetime specials dedicated to Juneteenth. I noticed the other day that the iPhone now includes Juneteenth as a holiday on the calendar, which I had not seen before. So why do you think that this moment in history that we are living in now is finally teaching us about the history of Juneteenth?
You know, one of the things that happens with history is that our emphasis in it sometimes crescendos and decrescendos. It goes up and it goes down. And so Juneteenth as a day of celebration has had times where it's been extraordinarily popular, and then sometimes it goes a little bit off the radar screen, with the exception of those people who really hold it so dear. But I think right now, the time period that we're living in, with COVID affecting African American communities and other communities, with the issue of policing, the issue of racial strife, I think we've reached a point in our society that we're starting to question our relationship with race, and to question ways in which we really haven't questioned race, I think, before. George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, I mean, they have really brought a different, I think, perspective to the way that we look at race. We're asking questions about, do all lives in this country matter the same way? Do Black lives matter in the same way as other lives? And so I think that is bringing us to Juneteenth and asking those kinds of questions. And Juneteenth, I think, provides answers, because as I was saying earlier, the slaves that came out of Juneteenth as freed persons didn't enter into a perfect world. And I think that if their lives had been perfect, we would have been in a different place right now. And so I think that we look at Juneteenth also as a symbol of those hopes, those emancipations, independence, but yet dreams that have not been truly fulfilled in our nation.
You and I talked about the fact that this is a uniquely American holiday, and it's not just an African American holiday, correct?
Correct. It's all of our holidays, because American history is not just the history of the presidents, the Supreme Court justices, the vice presidents, the businessmen. It's also the story of the working class, the poor laborers, the people in Appalachia, the people everywhere is America's story. And that too is the story of enslaved people. You don't have America if you don't have the enslaved people that helped to build this country. That our principles of freedom and justice and equality, the African-American population has been part of that conversation since the beginning of this nation, one way or the other. And so when we come to Juneteenth, or in a second Emancipation Day, in a sense, we are not free as a nation, fully free, until all of us are fully free. And so as parts of our nation become more liberated, we all become a little bit more free. And so when we think about Juneteenth, it's a day for everyone to celebrate, regardless of your ancestry, regardless of whether or not your parents or you were born in this country. Juneteenth is for everyone.
Dr. Carrie Lattimore, thank you for much more than just a history lesson this evening. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. It's been my privilege.
And we'll continue this conversation at 10:30, including the fact, I'm going to ask the question, is Juneteenth, did it start as just a Texas thing? And I know you have the answer for that, but we're going to hold on to it till 10. Dr. Carrie Lattimore, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. The coronavirus has pretty much cleared the streets of humans in California, but the wildlife is still coming out. A mountain lion, you see it there, spotted on the streets of San Francisco overnight on Wednesday. Something that bicycle rider off in the distance probably didn't know. A biologist says the big cat is not an adult, likely came from south of the city looking for food.
Wow, the streets were bare.
Yeah.
Look outside with live cam. 91 degrees out there. It is muggy. It is sunny. Of course, we're wondering if that's just going to keep on into the weekend, Adam.
Yeah, and it's that time of year. You know, the summer solstice comes tomorrow at about 4:45 p.m. And it's that time of year where we get just more of the same weather. And that's going to continue with our rain chances being about 20 to 30% in the days ahead. So more of those pop-up little downpours, usually brief in nature, but they can be very efficient rainmakers. So cross your fingers as you get into the weekend. We also have the African dust to talk about. That could even make some muddy rain as we get into next week. We'll talk about the arrival of that dust coming up.
The news around America now. Walt Disney World is canceling one of the park's Halloween traditions. The 2020 Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is off this year. Walt Disney World says that they don't want to present the stage shows, fireworks in the parade, with the coronavirus all still posing a threat. Disney has also canceled H2O Glow Nights and all of the evening events at Disney's Typhoon Lagoon. Refunds will be given for already purchased tickets. No decision yet on whether Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party will also be canceled.
All right, Father's Day weekend we're heading towards. So what's it going to be like for Dad this weekend, Adam?
It's going to be smoking a lot of meat is what it is.
Well, you will. I know you will.
Oh, you're talking about the weather?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. All right.
Oh, you could talk about, smoking meat, whatever.
Don't get me started. I was just reading.
I was about to point out that you were reading a book on that very topic.
Rereading the book.
Oh,
it's always good to get a nice reminder.
Wow. Do you highlight portions or underline?
Usually I do. Yeah, okay. When I read, I like to go back. Or I take those little Post-its and I put them in the pages all around, and my Bruin books are peppered with them too. It's great.
Do you have like a thermometer that you use for a bookmark?
Very funny. I should. I didn't smash it though.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we do have some weather to talk about, not just smoking meat and fishing over the weekend, whatever you like to do, but a few downpours out there. Now they're coming to an end. We've had a few over the past couple of hours. Still some daily rain chances, but they'll be isolated in nature. And then the African dust arrives on Tuesday. All right, let's take a look at the radar screen. We're watching that activity off to the west, as some of that could just sneak its way into Valverde County here. And as that pushes eastward, we'll keep an eye on it, but there's nothing severe. If anything, you'd get lucky with a little splash of rain in western Valverde County. The activity along the coastal plain has come to an end. We had a few downpours sneak their way into Bexar County, but that has all since ended. And those downpours that were just south of Hallettsville with a little bit of lightning and thunder, that has since dissipated as well. We're losing our daytime heating from the sun, so we're losing these showers, with the exception of the little more organized activity. So we'll just watch that. And again, those of you in Valverde County, if you're lucky, you may just get clipped by that. But odds are not in favor of that scenario playing out. Looking at the yellow box here, that indicates the severe thunderstorm watch. We've already had some warnings within it. A lot of thunderstorm activity coming together here, Oklahoma and parts of North Texas and even into West Texas as well. If some of this organizes enough as it barrels southward, we could get some leftovers, particularly in the hill country later tonight. I never rule that out in these situations, but odds are not in favor of that happening, so don't count on it. Upper level high is stationed basically just on the western coast of Mexico here, so it's not directly overhead. In turn, it gives us these little opportunities for those downpours and these showers to develop, and we're going to continue to see this pattern all the way through the weekend and the entirety of next week, that 20 to 30% chance. If we're lucky, we could be raising these chances by Wednesday, Thursday up a little bit more. Just cross your fingers for that. All right, let's talk about the African dust, the Saharan air layer, as it's technically called. It's that dust that every year it happens. It gets kicked up off the Saharan desert in Africa, transported thousands of miles westward, and our first batch this year is likely to arrive by Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. So if you are sensitive to that dust in the air, you have a very sensitive respiratory system, keep that in mind. Middle of next week through the end of next week, this dust is likely to be in our air. Notice by Thursday afternoon, probably a little bit thicker. So I'll play this for you one more time. Here comes that dust. This is the model animation and forecast of what we're expecting. And if you're not sensitive to it, if you don't get the scratchy eyes or runny nose, you'll just notice an extra haze in the air. And it also adds a little more color to our sunrises and sunsets. 91 degrees outside right now. Dew point is 67, so we're feeling the humidity. For the most part, we're right around 90, and temperatures will gradually fall through the 80s this evening. Those isolated showers coming to an end. Southeasterly breeze 5 to 15 tonight and all weekend long, with the 20 to 30% chance of rain. Mornings will be in the 70s, afternoons in the mid 90s. Same old in terms of how it feels outside over the weekend and even how it looks with the mixture of sun and clouds. Notice as we get into the middle of next week, that African dust will probably be more prevalent. And if so, with those pop-up downpours, we could get some of that muddy rain that we sometimes see around here.
That's always
dirty rain, right?
Yeah. Makes your car look great.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Adam. In case you missed it, coming up next.
Here's today's ICYMI. The local Veterans Hospital says it has the highest number of COVID-19 cases in the entire VA healthcare system. The Audie L. Murphy Memorial Veterans Hospital currently has 18 patients admitted for the virus. They say all are in stable condition. However, the hospital is asking the public to continue taking safety precautions to help stop the spread of the virus.
San Antonio police say a man in his 20s remains in critical condition after being shot twice in the chest.
Police telling us the victim and his girlfriend were at home when they saw two men trying to break in through the window. The man opened the front door, and that's when officers say the suspect shot him.
Right now, police are still looking for those suspects.
A public visitation is going to be held for fallen Bexar County Sheriff's Deputy Timothy De La Fuente next week. The Sheriff's Office is hosting the service at Mission Park Funeral Chapel South off Southeast Military Drive on Wednesday, June 24th. De La Fuente died of COVID-19 complications back in April. You can find more information on KSAT.com.
It is Juneteenth, and today millions of Americans across the country celebrating a very important piece of history. On June 19th, 1865, the last enslaved African Americans in Galveston learned they were free.
The news came to them 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Today, people here in San Antonio spent part of their afternoon marching from Pittman Sullivan Park to Martin Luther King Park. It's just one of several events scheduled today to remember the emancipation.
The weekend is here. Time to kick off those work shoes and slip on some flip-flops. Today is National Flip-Flop Day. Comes around every year on the third Friday of June, surely by design.
You know, I actually thought maybe it had something to do with politics. But no, National Flip-Flop Day was created by Tropical Smoothie Cafe in 2007 to celebrate the smoothie shop's 10th anniversary. Since then, it's become an annual celebration where customers wearing flip-flops get a free Jetty Punch smoothie. It's also one of the ways that Tropical Smoothie supports sick kids and their families to camp.
There you go. Happy National. I'm not even going to wish you a happy national.
I know, that might be the first happy national something day you've given to people.
Well, it's Friday. It's the end of the week.
Friday.
Letting his guard
Thinking
down.
about the meat I'm going to be smoking all weekend, and I mean that, Saturday and Sunday. Oh, look, temperature's not changing much. We'll have some pop-up daily downpours. African dust arrives Tuesday.
You still got some reading to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
See you at 10.